Most zombie games sit you down and tell you a story. Don't Bite Me Bro just drops you in a field, spawns a horde, and basically says, figure it out. And somehow, that still turns into a whole little apocalypse in your head. You don't get a narrator explaining the outbreak. There's no dramatic opening cutscene, no government briefing, no 3 days later montage. You get a blocky little camp, some zombies shuffling around your edges of your map, and one guy, Mountain Man, who hands you an axe and teaches you how not to die in the next 5 minutes. That's it. And yet, by the time your run is over, you feel like you've watched a whole community rise and fall. For me, the full story of Don't Bite Me Bro isn't a hidden lore file or a cutscene you unlock. It's buried in who you save, who you lose, and what your camp looks like when the last wave hits. So I want to walk through what the game actually gives us, and then talk about how it quietly lets you write the rest. When you spawn in, the apocalypse is already old news. The town is trash, the roads are full of abandoned cars, and zombies wandering from the edges like bad weather. There's no moment where you watch the first person turn or see society fall apart. You arrive after all of that, in the part most zombie stories speed run through. Your safe zone is this small camp on the edge of town. It's not a bunker or a fortress, it looks like a panic project. Somebody saw what was coming, started throwing up walls around a campfire and hoped that would be enough. That somebody is Mountain Man. He's not just a tutorial NPC, but he's the guy who's already lived through the part you've missed. And I love how low-key he is. He doesn't talk about the origin of the virus or whose fault it is. He shows up. He shows you the only things that matter now. Chop trees, get food, and build walls. Set up turrets and prepare for the waves. Energy is very. We can argue about whose fault this is later. Right now we need wood. And the game makes a pretty brutal point with him. If you skip the tutorial, he just dies off screen. No speech, no heroic sacrifice, just gone. Even the mentor is expendable. That one detail quietly tells you the rules of this world. Nobody is safe just because they feel important, and the game is not here to protect your feelings about who should live. Once he's done teaching or dead, you've officially promoted. You don't ask for it, but you're now the person between this camp and whatever is stumbling towards it. That's your starting point. You showed up late to the end of the world, and now it's just your job to keep this tiny patch of ground alive. Because Don't Bite Me Bro barely uses dialogue, it has to tell a story through what you actually do. And what you do is incredibly simple. Explore, build, and defend. First you explore. You leave camp and wander through the town, the highway, the fairgrounds, and all the little zones around the map. You're not on a tour, you're on a grocery run at the end of the world. Food keeps your people from starving. Wood turns into walls and spikes. Ammo and better weapons decide whether you walk away from the next attack or become free XP for the next horde. Every trip out feels like its own mini episode. How far do you push it before you turn around and sprint from home? Then you build. Every tree you cut and every crate you smash ends up showing up back at camp. You chose where the walls go, where the spikes sit, where the turrets watch. In a lot of games, base building is just the timing you do between missions. Here is the skeleton of your whole story. When you zoom out and look at your camp after a few waves, you can literally see the priorities written into the layout. Where you've doubled up on defenses, where you cheaped out, where you never got around fixing a gap. And then there's defend, which is where everything you built either proves itself or falls apart. Every few minutes, the game spawns a horde that only cares about one thing: that your camp exists. It doesn't matter if you're at home or still out looting, those zombies are marching straight for your walls. Sometimes your setup works and you get that satisfying moment where the wave dies on your spikes and turrets. Sometimes one weak point collapses and the story of that night becomes, we lost the front gate and barely patched it before dawn. There's no radio hinting at a rescue, no timer counting down to the cavalry. The world doesn't care whether you make it. The only thing that changes is your camp and your people. That loop, explore, build, and defend, isn't just a mechanic at that point. It's the heartbeat of this apocalypse. The moment the game really starts to feel like a story instead of a sandbox is when you start meeting other survivors. They're scattered around the map, hiding in houses, standing on roads, stuck in bad situations. None of them gives you a 5-minute monologue about their tragic past. Each one has a simple problem. They're hungry and they're surrounded, or they just need someone to walk them home without dying. When you help them, they don't vanish into a rescue counter. They physically walk back to the camp and join your group. A lot of them become playable, so you can swap into them and put them on the walls during waves. That's when the camp stops being you're just an old guy and starts feeling like a little community. And your brain does the rest. You start assigning roles even through the game never labels them. This one is your go-to fighter for risky trips outside the walls. The one always seems to end up farming. There's almost always one survivor who just refuses to die and becomes the unofficial legend of the run. None of that is written down, but you remember it. Then the game hits you with the harshest rule. Survivors have permadeath. If a wall fails and a zombie gets to someone during a wave, that character is gone. There's no last second revive, no they'll be back next mission. Your lineup is permanently different now. Mechanically, you lose their stats and gear. Emotionally, you just lost a little piece of what just made this particular camp feels like yours. When you look back on a run, you don't just think, I survived X waves. You think, this was the run where we lost our best defender on the cast wall, or that was the one where the most useless guy somehow lived through everything. That's the stuff that turns a loop into a memory. To keep all of this from feeling like pure endless survival, the game does throw you a loose main path, dungeons, and a final boss. Out in the world, you find caves and dungeons like areas that are way more intense than the streets. That's the game asking, you can hold your base, sure, but can you survive this? You fight bigger clusters of zombies, grab better loot, and come back a little stronger if you don't get shredded on the way. On top of that, you start collecting key items or orbs that eventually unlock a final encounter. That's the closest Don't Bite Me Bro comes to a traditional ending. It's not a scientist with a villain speech or general explanation of the conspiracy. It's just the apocalypse cranked all the way up, a huge swarm, a brutal fight, and one simple question. Did your little camp actually get strong enough? When you finally decide to go for it, you bring everything. Your best weapons, your tough survivors, every upgrade you squeeze out of this map. And that fight doesn't just test your aim, it tests your whole run. Did you invest in the right defenses, or did you cheap out? Did you walk past potential survivors because it was too risky at the time? Did you build a camp that could survive this, or were you quietly hoping raw damage would carry you? If you win, you get that world is safe style moment. Credits roll and the game lets you feel like you did something meaningful. But notice what doesn't happen. There's no cutscene where the town gets rebuilt, no magic cure, the systems are still there. The zombies still exist, and the world is still broken. The final boss isn't an answer to what caused all this. It's just a big question mark you managed to punch your way through. On paper, the official story of Don't Bite Me Bro is tiny. The apocalypse already happened. Mountain Man built a camp, you show up, survivors are scattered, there's a huge threat you can eventually challenge if you survive long enough. That's the basic outline every run shares. But the interesting part, the part that sticks with you, is all the stuff that the game doesn't script. It lives in which survivors you decided were worth the risk. It lives in how you chose to lay out your walls. It lives in the ways that almost erase you, and whether you crawled into this final fight with 3 tired people or marching with a full squad behind reinforced defenses. Most zombie stories about how one specific group made it through the end of the world. Don't Bite Me Bro just cuts out the cutscenes and let you be the one telling that story, even if you never say it out loud. The game sets the rules, spawns the threats, throws a handful of strangers into your orbit, and then steps back to see what kind of camp you build and how long it lasts. That's why I don't think the full story lives on a wiki page. It lives in your camp's history. It's the run where everything went wrong and you somehow held the line, or the run where you were sure you were ready and got absolutely flattened by a wave you underestimated. So I'm curious of what your version looks like. Did your mountain man actually make it to the end, or did he die before you even finished the walls? Did you have that one survivor who carried the whole camp, or did you cycle through people faster than you can learn their names? And when you finally took on that last big fight, if you ever got there, did it feel like a clean victory, or more like you barely got away with it? If you're into small weird zombie games that hide big ideas under simple mechanics and other type of video games, let me know what you want me to break down next, and drop your own Don't Bite Me Bro stories in the comments. This is Red Major 2K, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace, love, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.